My beloved child, before the noise of this day begins, before you reach for the first thing that will pull your attention away from me, I want you to pause here, in this quiet, where it is only you and my voice. You did not arrive at this moment by accident. You did not stumble into these words by chance. I drew you here, gently, the way a shepherd draws a wandering sheep back toward the warmth of the fold. For it is written, "The Lord is near to all who call on him, to all who call on him in truth." Psalm 145:18. And the truth I am asking from you today is not a polished prayer or a rehearsed confession. It is simply you, exactly as you are, with the heaviness you carry and the questions you have not dared to ask aloud. You have grown used to believing that I only come close when everything in your life is in order, when your faith feels strong, when your hands are clean and your heart is settled. But that is not how my love has ever worked. I do not wait at the far end of your improvement, watching to see if you will finally become worthy of my attention. I come to you in the middle of the mess, in the unfinished hour, in the ordinary morning you assumed I would overlook. This day you are living right now is not a leftover day. It is not empty space between the moments that truly matter. This is the day the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. Psalm 118, 24. I shaped this day with intention, with you held in my thoughts, with a meaning woven into it that you cannot yet see from where you are standing. My child, you carry things you have never spoken to anyone. There are worries that live just beneath your smile, concerns that wake with you in the morning and walk beside you through the noise of the day, and then grow louder in the silence of the night when there is nothing left to distract you. You have learned to function while quietly aching. You have learned to keep moving while something inside you waits to be seen. And perhaps you have begun to believe that I do not notice, because the world has trained you to expect that no one truly does. But hear me clearly. I have not turned my face away from you, not once, not for a single moment. Before they call, I will answer. While they are still speaking, I will hear. Isaiah 65:24. Even your sighs reach me. Even the prayer that has no words reaches me. When language fails you and all you can offer is a heaviness in your chest, I still understand the language of your heart. What you call a burden, I often call a doorway. The very thing pressing down on you is frequently the very place where my voice becomes clearest, because it is there that you finally stop performing and start being honest. I do not always lift the weight in the instant you ask. Sometimes I reach beneath it, all the way to the root of it, into the place where my light can touch what no encouragement from another person has ever reached. I am not only interested in rearranging the circumstances around you, I am interested in healing what lives within you. The quiet wound you have carried so long you have almost forgotten it is there. You may believe that certain dreams have died. You once held them with both hands. You prayed over them. You waited for them. You imagined the day they would finally come to life. And then time passed, and nothing visibly changed. And slowly, without even deciding to, you set them down in a corner of your heart where you no longer allow yourself to look. But child, I do not forget what you have placed into my hands, no matter how small it seemed to you, no matter how long ago it was. God is not unjust. He will not forget your work and the love you have shown him. Hebrews 6:10. What looks silent to you is not dead. It is being kept. It is being tended. And when the appointed time arrives, what rises will not be exactly what you buried. It will be fuller, deeper, more alive, more aligned with the purpose I always intended for it than it ever could have been before. Remember Joseph, the boy with the dreams. He was thrown into a pit by the very ones who shared his blood. He was sold as though his life were nothing more than a transaction. He was carried into a foreign land, lied about, forgotten in a prison for years, while every dream he had ever been given seemed to mock him with how impossibly far away it was. Yet in that long darkness, I was not absent. I was writing a story too large for him to read from the bottom of a well. And when the day finally came, he turned to the brothers who had betrayed him and said, "You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good." Genesis 50:20. So understand this, my beloved. The seasons that feel like loss are not always loss. The delays that feel like rejection are not always rejection. Sometimes they are the slow, hidden, careful work of a love that is preparing you for something your present self could not yet hold. So as you step into the moments that are coming, do not carry doubt as your companion. Do not assume you must face everything alone, gathering all your strength into one trembling hand and bracing for the impact. I do not lead you anywhere I am not already present. The people walking in darkness have seen a great light. Isaiah 9:2. And that light does not arrive from somewhere far away. Like a rescue, you must wait helplessly to receive. It rises within you the moment you allow me to move in the places you have kept locked and hidden. There are days you wait, and it feels like waiting for nothing. Your effort seems to disappear into a void. You take a step and the ground gives you no answer, no sign that you are moving in the right direction at all. But waiting in me is never empty. It is the season in which your heart is being widened, made soft enough and strong enough to hold what I am preparing to give. If I handed you the answer before you were ready, the answer itself could become a weight that crushes you. So I prepare you first, so that what you receive becomes life and not another burden you must learn to survive. There is a time for everything, and a season for every activity under the heavens. Ecclesiastes 3:1. You were not made simply to survive your days, to repeat the same tired pattern until you are too exhausted to repeat it any longer. You were made for appointed moments, for the places where your faith meets my voice and something entirely new is born. Not merely an improvement to your circumstances, a renewal of you from the inside out. I am not in the business of slightly upgrading your life. I am in the business of recreating you. Behold, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs forth. Do you not perceive it? Isaiah 43:19. What I am doing is not limited by your past. You do not have to understand the whole road in order to take the next step on it. You only need to trust that I am walking it beside you and that I have never once let go of your hand. My beloved child, when I speak of a night that is coming, I am not always speaking of darkness as you imagine it. Sometimes I am speaking of a stillness, the kind of quiet where the noise of the world finally lowers its voice, where you stop being pulled in 100 directions at once, and you turn inward to the place where I have been waiting for you longer than you know. Be still and know that I am God. Psalm 46:10. This is not only an instruction to obey, it is an invitation to enter. It is a doorway into the truth that I have never once left your side, even on the nights you were most certain you were alone. You thought the quiet places in your life were signs of distance. You thought my silence meant my absence. You assumed that because you could not feel me, I must have stopped working. But child, it is often in the stillness that I am doing the most. For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, declares the Lord. Isaiah 55:8. When you cannot see, when you cannot feel, when you cannot trace the movement of my hand in your circumstances, that is not the moment I have left you. That is the moment I am weaving something far beyond your ability to perceive, in a place your eyes were never meant to reach. Remember young Samuel, lying in the temple in the dark, hearing a voice and not yet recognizing that it was mine. 3 times he rose and ran to his teacher, certain it was a human calling him in the night, until at last he was taught to answer, "Speak, for your servant is listening." 1 Samuel 3:10. So it has been with you. I have called to you in the quiet, and you did not always recognize my voice, because you were waiting for something louder, something unmistakable, something dramatic enough to remove all doubt. But I do not always come in the wind or the earthquake or the fire. I often come in a gentle whisper. 1 Kings 19:12. And the stillness you are entering is the very place where you will finally learn to hear it. You do not need to make yourself perfect before you step into what I have prepared for you. I am not waiting for you to become strong enough, qualified enough, holy enough, worthy enough. I am simply looking for a heart that is willing to listen. When I led Abraham outside beneath a sky thick with uncountable stars, I did not ask him to comprehend the entire plan I had set in motion. I asked him only to look up. Count the stars. If you are able to count them, so shall your offspring be. Genesis 15:5. That promise did not rest on Abraham's ability or his understanding. It rested on my faithfulness. And the promises standing before you now do not require your full comprehension either. They require only your trust, the kind that keeps walking even when the road disappears into the dark ahead. You may feel that your life is too ordinary to matter to me, too quiet, too unremarkable to draw the attention of heaven. But you are seeing yourself through human eyes, not through my light. Nothing in your life is meaningless. No detail is too small for my care. Are not 2 sparrows sold for a penny? Yet not one of them will fall to the ground outside your Father's care. Matthew 10:29. If I attend to the smallest creature that crosses the sky, how much more do I attend to you? whom I formed with my own hands and filled with my own breath, and called by your own name. And what I am preparing for you does not come because you have finally earned it. It comes because the time has reached its fullness. When Esther was brought into the palace, she did not arrange the timing of it, nor did she choose the position she was placed in. Yet when the decisive moment arrived, she understood that she had been set there for such a time as this. Esther 4:14. So it is with you. What you are walking toward is not random. It is part of an unfolding I set in motion long before you knew to ask for it. For I know the plans I have for you, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future. Jeremiah 27:7. That promise was not only spoken to a people long ago in a distant land, it is spoken to you, here, now, in the very situation you were certain I had overlooked. So when the moment comes, do not rush it. Do not grip it so tightly that you strangle the life out of it. Do not strain to control or fully comprehend every part of it before you will allow yourself to move. Be still in your heart. Stay open in your spirit. Let me lead. For I am not only the one who calls you into a moment, I am the one who walks with you through it, who is there before you arrive, there as you enter, and there long after you have passed through to the other side. My beloved child, there are corners within your heart that even you avoid, places you have quietly labeled as darkness, as too broken to show, as too shameful to bring into the light, and those are the very places I most long to enter first. I do not come to you only when you are whole and standing tall and presentable. I come when you are most honest, when you finally stop hiding what is heavy inside you, when you let your guard fall and simply let yourself be seen. There is a weariness in you that you have never named. It is not the tiredness of the body that a good night of sleep can cure. It is the slow erosion of the soul that comes from walking a long road without ever seeing the harvest you hoped for. You have carried it silently, because somewhere along the way you decided you had to stay strong, you had to hold the line, you had to never let anyone see you waver. But I do not require a life lived permanently under strain. I do not need you to be the one who never breaks. I desire a heart willing to open. Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Matthew 11:28. This is not a distant comfort offered to someone holier than you. It is an invitation extended directly to you in this hour, with all your exhaustion intact. And it is precisely into your weariness that I lay my hand, not to leave you exhausted, but to awaken a strength in you that you could never have manufactured on your own. There are seasons when you do not deny me, and yet quietly, in a place you barely admit even to yourself, you begin to wonder whether I still care. You still pray. You still say the familiar words. But somewhere within there is a hesitation, an emptiness you do not know how to fill, a distance you did not choose but cannot seem to close no matter how you try. I see this, and I do not condemn you for it. Faith was never meant to be a road without doubt. It is a road that keeps moving toward me even while it is uncertain. Like the father who cried out in desperation, I believe, help my unbelief. Mark 9:24. That prayer was not rejected. It was answered with healing. So I do not turn away from you in your doubt. It is precisely there, in the middle of your wondering, that I am quietly preparing you to discover that my presence has never shrunk, no matter how wildly your feelings have risen and fallen. And there is a voice that often whispers to you that you are not enough, that you are not worthy, that you have no real place in this world. You look at others, you measure yourself against the version of their lives they allow you to see, and then you withdraw, convinced you are only a faint shadow in a world far too large for someone like you. But your worth is not decided by human comparison. It is not set by how you measure against another. It is decided by the one who formed you in the secret place. I praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Psalm 139:14. You are not a copy of anyone who has come before you. You are not a mistake awaiting correction. You are a deliberate intention of mine. Breath I placed carefully into a living form, a soul I called good before you had done a single thing to prove it. I did not call you to become someone else. I am calling you back to the true self I created, the one who was loved without condition before the world taught you to earn it. And then there is the thing you have buried deeper than all the rest, a longing that once burned so brightly you could hardly contain it, and now lingers only as a faded memory you try not to disturb. You believed once, you prayed once, you waited once, with your whole heart leaning forward toward a day you were sure would come. But as time passed without visible change, You tucked it away in the dark, because hoping again began to feel too dangerous, like deliberately reopening a wound that had only just begun to close. You stopped speaking of it. You stopped even naming it, in case naming it would make the disappointment real all over again. But I do not only hear the prayers you say aloud, I also hear the ones you have buried in silence. What looks dead to you is, in my sight, only sleeping, waiting for the moment I choose to call it forth. As I stood before the tomb that day and called out, "Lazarus, come out." John 11:43. And life itself answered my voice, beyond every limit that human reason had declared final. What I do is not bound by time, nor by what appears finished and sealed and beyond hope. And if you will let me, I will touch what you let go of, not to restore it exactly as it was, but to bring it back greater, deeper, and truer to the purpose for which it was first given. So do not be afraid of the dark places in you. Do not think you must clean them and tidy them before I am willing to come near. Those are the very doors I choose to enter. Your weariness does not push me away. It draws me nearer. Your doubt does not make me leave. It makes me stay longer. Your sense of inadequacy does not disqualify you from my love. It opens the way for that love to be seen most clearly. And the dreams you buried do not make me forget them. They rest in my keeping, held safe and warm, awaiting the day they are called by name and rise. My beloved child, I know there are prayers you have offered out of pure exhaustion, asking for something simple, that the weight would finally lift, that the knot in your circumstances would loosen, that you could simply breathe again without the constant tightness in your chest. And I hear every one of those prayers. But what I am doing reaches further than untangling the single thing in front of you. I do not only touch your circumstances, I touch who you are. When I enter the wounded places, I do not stop at making them vanish. I use them to reshape the way you see, the way you live, the way you understand yourself and your story. And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love Him. Romans 8:28. Not because every single thing that happens is good in itself, but because I am able to make even the hardest things meaningful within my hands. You have walked through experiences that taught you to define yourself by failure, by fear, by all the ways you have fallen short. But when I touch those places, the old definitions begin to crack and fall away. You are no longer a person trapped forever by your past. You are a soul marked by healing. I do not simply patch you like something broken and set you back on a shelf to be careful with. I remake you from within, the way a potter takes the spoiled clay and reshapes it into something new. Can I not do with you as this potter does? Jeremiah 18:6. You are not locked inside your old form. You are always, always within reach of my renewal. Consider Job, who endured losses so deep that few in any generation could imagine carrying them. He lost his wealth, his children, his health, nearly everything a person could lose. And people looked at the ruin of his life and assumed they understood the meaning of it. But they could not see the work happening beneath the surface, in the unseen place where I was forming something that suffering alone could create. In the end, I did not only restore what had been taken from him. The Lord restored Job's fortunes and gave him twice as much as he had before. Job 42:10. And greater even than that restoration was this. He came to know me more deeply than he ever had in all his years of comfort. My ears had heard of you, but now my eyes have seen you. Job 42:5. So it is with you, my child. What you are carrying right now is not the end of your story. It is the beginning of a love that has already begun to move on your behalf, in ways you will only understand when you finally look back. You often ask me why the same difficulties keep returning, as though you are trapped inside a circle with no exit, walking the same painful ground again and again. But I invite you to ask a different question. Could that very place, the one you keep returning to, become the place where you meet me most truly? When you let me in, what felt like a burden can become an altar, a place where you lay down every worry and every wound and receive my presence in exchange for them. Offer your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to God. Romans 12:1. Not your perfection, not your performance. Your honest, unfinished self, brought to me as you actually are. There are things you have carried for so long that you have begun to treat them as your destiny, as though you were simply meant to live with them forever, as though they had become part of who you are. But your destiny is not the weight you carry. Your destiny is held in my hands, and I am touching every part of it to transform it. When I move, the shadows stop covering you and begin instead to become the openings through which my light enters. What you were ashamed of, I can use to reveal grace. What you hid in darkness, I can turn into a testimony that sets others free. And a day is coming when you will realize that the very things that once made you lower your head in shame are the places where I am lifting you up. Those who sow in tears will reap with songs of joy. Psalm 126:5. My beloved child, perhaps you no longer remember the last time you brought that one thing before me. Perhaps the prayer dissolved into 100 ordinary days, blurred by concern and quiet disappointment until you could no longer find the edges of it. But what I see is not how much time has passed. What I see is my own faithfulness, which has not changed across the entire length of your journey, not by a single degree. What you believe is forgotten, I have been carefully keeping, like a gardener tending seeds buried in dry ground through a long season. You do not see the sprouting, and so you assume nothing is happening. But that does not mean life is absent. It means I am deepening the roots, in the hidden place where the strength of everything that will one day grow is being quietly decided. There are dreams I do not allow to bloom too early, not because I am indifferent to your longing, not because I delight in making you wait, but because I love you too much to place into your hands something your roots are not yet deep enough to hold. A young plant pulled up before its roots have anchored cannot survive the heat of the sun or the force of the wind. In exactly the same way, a blessing placed in your hands before your heart is ready, for it can become a weight that exhausts you rather than a gift that sustains you. The Lord is your keeper. Psalm 121:5. And in that keeping, I do not only protect you from harm, I also preserve what is good, holding it back from you until the moment you are able to truly receive it without being broken by it. Remember Sarah, who laughed when she first heard the promise, because her body had grown old and the promise sounded impossible to her ears. Her laughter was not joy, it was disbelief, the bitter sound of a hope held too long and finally released. But I am not limited by what you call impossible. Is anything too hard for the Lord? Genesis 18:14. And in the very place where life seemed completely over, where the natural course of things had closed every door, I brought forth new life, and a cry of joy rose where there had been only long silence. So it is with the things you have already named as over, as too late, as gone for good. To me they are not over. They are only waiting to be called at the appointed time. You once brought me such simple longings, a place to belong, a person who would truly understand you, a door that would finally open so you could walk into the purpose you sensed you were made for. And when you saw no answer, you slowly fell quiet, and in your quiet you assumed that I had fallen quiet too. But not one word you ever lifted to me was lost. The Lord is near to all who call on him in truth. Psalm 145. 18. Every prayer was a seed, and I received each one, and I have been tending them with a patience you have not yet been able to see or understand. What you call delay, I call preparation. I am not only concerned with what you receive in the end, I am deeply concerned with who you are becoming as you wait to receive it. The waiting you are walking through right now is not an empty stretch of nothing, a meaningless pause before your real life resumes. It is the season your roots go down deep, where your faith stops resting on what you can see and starts resting on who I am, which never changes. When nothing seems to be moving on the outside, you are being transformed on the inside in ways that will outlast every circumstance. I have used every single day you chose to keep going despite the heaviness. Every tear you cried in silence where no one saw. Every time you refused to give up even though no answer had come. I have used all of it to build a foundation in you that nothing can shake. The righteous will live by faith. Romans 1:17. You may not feel yourself growing, because true growth so often happens quietly, in the unremarkable days when you simply keep believing while nothing ahead is clear. But I see it. I see every step you take, every time you choose not to turn away, every fragile thread of hope you refuse to release, even when releasing, it would be easier. And I do not overlook a single moment of it. God is not unjust. He will not forget your work. Hebrews 6:10. The season will change, my child, not because you forced it open through sheer effort, but because it was appointed, and the appointed time will surely come. And when it changes, what I give you will not only be the thing you first asked for, it will be something renewed, refined, made deeper and truer, and placed into your hands at the exact moment you are finally able to hold it fully. You will look back and understand that had it come to you earlier, you simply could not have carried it. It would have slipped through your fingers, or it would have crushed you. But now you are different. You are deeper. You are steadier. You are wider on the inside than you were before, with room enough at last to hold what I have been preparing. My beloved child, you have wrapped yourself in so many definitions without ever noticing you were doing it. You look at your results, your position, the praise and the criticism of others, the expectations that surround you on every side, and from all of it you quietly draw conclusions about your worth. I know how hard you have tried to be recognized, to be accepted, to feel at last that you are enough, and when you fall short of it, you turn against yourself and decide that you are inadequate, that you have failed at the one thing that mattered. But the truth does not live there. You do not need to strive to be loved, because love reached you before you ever began to strive for it. Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Jeremiah 1:5. No standard the world has ever invented can define you more truly than the word I spoke over you before you took your first breath. So pause, my child, not to give up, but to stop chasing the shadows of approval that have run ahead of you your whole life. The harder you run after them, the farther you drift from yourself, and the more the peace you are desperately seeking slips through your hands. But when you stop, when you finally stand still, you will find that I am still here, standing in the exact place where you abandoned yourself long ago, looking at you not with judgment but with mercy. Be still before the Lord and wait patiently for him. Psalm 37:7. And when you lift your eyes to meet mine, you will see a person you had almost forgotten, not the distorted version shaped by years of comparison and criticism, but a precious soul created to live, not merely to be measured and weighed and found wanting. Remember Peter. He boldly declared his loyalty, swore he would never fall away, and then denied me 3 times before the night was over, in his weakest and most frightened hour. He believed he had lost everything, that he no longer had any place at my side, that his failure had written him out of the story. But when I met him again on the shore, I did not list his failures back to him. I did not interrogate his past or demand an explanation. I simply asked him, "Do you love me?" John 21:17. For what I seek is not a flawless history. It is a heart that is willing to return to me. And so I see you, not through your stumbles, but through your capacity to be restored again and again in my love. The more you withdraw from my gaze, the more your life begins to feel like scattered fragments, like an unfinished draft you are ashamed to show anyone. But the moment you turn back to me, even with the faintest whisper, even with nothing more than a tired, "Here I am," I call you by a name that no one can ever take from you. I have called you by name. You are mine. Isaiah 43:1. You are loved. You are chosen. You have a purpose that was written before the foundations of the world. You do not have to prove it or fight to earn it or defend it against those who doubt it. You only have to receive it. And out of that receiving, a strength rises in you that no longer depends on the shifting opinions of others. What I am forming in you is not a fragile pride built on achievement that the next failure could topple. It is a deep and unshakable humility built on the knowledge that you are unconditionally loved. A person who knows this does not need to compete or compare, because they have already been affirmed by the one who never changes. Let the one who boasts boast in the Lord. 2 Corinthians 10:17. And then, slowly, you begin to see your failures differently. They stop being endings, stop being the final proof of your inadequacy that you always feared they were. They become meeting places, the very ground where you discover how deep my mercy actually goes. My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. 2 Corinthians 12:9. In the very places you were most certain were your weakest, I have been laying the foundation of a true strength that comfort could never have built. Perhaps you stand right now at a turning point, where the plans you trusted no longer hold, where the paths you relied on have gone unclear, and you find yourself in a waiting you cannot control no matter how hard you grip. You call it delay. I call it an invitation into trust. Not the helplessness of someone who has been defeated, but the surrender of a child who chooses freely to lean on the wisdom of a father who sees further than they can. Obedience is not doing nothing. It is not the passive collapse of someone who has given up. It is living under guidance, walking in the rhythm of heaven instead of the frantic pace of the world. When you obey, you do not lose yourself. You simply entrust your direction to the one who can see the road you cannot yet see around the bend. Remember Abraham again, asked to release the most precious thing he had, his own promised son, not understanding why, unable to foresee the outcome, and yet still rising early and walking forward in obedience. And in that obedience, I revealed that I never intended to take from him at all, but to establish within him a faith that nothing in the years to come could ever shake. The Lord will provide. Genesis 22:14. So understand that what I ask you to release is never meant to rob you. It is meant to teach you that I am your provider, that your hands were never the source of your security in the first place. I do not require flawless performance from you. A trembling yes, offered to me in trust, is more precious in my sight than a perfectly calculated act offered without any trust at all. We walk by faith, not by sight. 2 Corinthians 5:7. And it is in the dimness of what is not yet clear that true light is born. My beloved child, place your hand upon your own heart and speak to me honestly. Choose to trust that I know the way better than you do. Not because you are weak or foolish, but because you have come to recognize that I am a source of wisdom that has never once failed and never will. When you live like that, every step you take, however small, however slow, becomes a quiet song of trust rising up to me. And along that road you will discover something you did not expect. That not a single tear you have shed was wasted, not a single failure was meaningless, not a single step backward was ever beyond my reach. Everything you have walked through, everything you are walking through now, and everything you have yet to walk through, is being woven together into a greater story. The story of restoration that I have been telling since the beginning. In all things God works for the good of those who love him. Romans 8:28. Even what you do not understand, even what still makes no sense to you, it is all being transformed into something beautiful in my time. The most precious gift I am giving you is not a loud, visible change that others can see and admire. It is a quiet miracle unfolding within your own heart, where only I can see it. I do not come merely to adjust a few details of your life or patch over what looks broken on the surface. I come to awaken the true self I formed in you before the wounds and the fears and the judgments of the world covered it over and made you forget it was ever there. I know there are still things you long for, a door to open, a relationship to be mended, a pain to be healed at last, a heaviness to be lifted from your shoulders. I hear it all. I treasure every word you bring to me, every one. But if I were to change your circumstances without first touching your heart, you would only carry the same emptiness into the new place, and you would wonder why the relief you longed for did not satisfy you. That is why I am not stopping at what surrounds you. I am recreating what is within you. He heals the brokenhearted and binds up their wounds. Psalm 147:3. This kind of transformation rarely arrives with noise and spectacle. It unfolds in the smallest moments, in the times you choose to yield instead of resisting, in the quiet yes you offer when no one is watching, in the times you keep believing when nothing around you is clear. It is like a mustard seed, so small it is easily overlooked, and yet carrying within it the power to move mountains. If you have faith as small as a mustard seed, nothing will be impossible for you. Matthew 17:20. Every single time you whisper, "I still believe," even with a trembling and uncertain voice, is a moment in which I am shaping your heart closer to my own likeness. So when you look back over the road you have traveled, do not rush to count only the outward changes, the things that did or did not happen. Count instead the moments you grew steadier in faith, more patient in the waiting, more generous in love, gentler with the very people who tested you most. These are the true marks of the miracles I have been working in you all along. A miracle is not always the thing that astonishes a watching crowd. More often it is the quiet renewal taking place within you, the kind that even you did not immediately recognize as the hand of God. Remember Hannah, who stood in the temple year after year with a broken and barren heart, praying so deeply that her lips moved without any sound, until the priest who watched her mistook her anguish for drunkenness. People looked at her and did not understand. They judged what they could not comprehend. But I understood. I heard the prayer that had no voice, and from that silent, aching prayer I brought forth Samuel, a child who would help turn an entire generation back toward me. I have prayed for this child, she said, 1 Samuel 1:27. Do you see, my child? The greatest things do not always begin with what is loud and visible. So often they begin with a whisper known only between you and me, in a temple where everyone else assumed you were simply falling apart. And this renewal I am working in you is not an ending in itself, it is a beginning. Because once you have been transformed, you do not merely live inside the blessing, content to keep it for yourself. You become someone who carries blessing into the world, to others who are still waiting in the dark for the light you have found. The night I have spoken of was never the closing of something old. It was always a doorway into a new life, a life where you and I walked together, writing each chapter side by side, not in perfection, but in the kind of companionship that does not require you to have everything figured out. Surely I am with you always, to the very end of the age. Matthew 28:20. You are no longer one who wanders without direction. You are one who is led. I know there were roads you walked with tired and aching feet, nights you sank into a silence so deep you could not hear my voice no matter how hard you strained to listen. There were moments you genuinely wondered whether you had taken a wrong turn somewhere, whether the wounds you carry would ever come to mean anything at all, whether the whole journey had simply been a series of mistakes. But not a single step of yours was meaningless before me. For the Lord guards the course of the just. Proverbs 2:8. Every time you stood firm while trembling on the inside, I saw it. When you were exhausted at the very bottom of the valley, I was there, not always to pull you out in an instant, but to sustain you through each small and difficult step. When you struggled even to breathe on the steep slope of doubt, I was the breath that kept you standing when you should have fallen. The winding road you thought had no direction had already been traced by my hand, not to lead you astray, but to take you somewhere deeper than the straight and easy path ever could. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Psalm 23:4. The path that leads to true glory is never without its darkness. But it is within that very darkness that my light becomes most visible, like a single flame in a windowless room. I do not create the dark valleys you pass through, but I do not allow you to walk through them alone either. I step down into them with you, so that my light does not only shine in front of you to show the way, but begins to shine out from within you, until you yourself become a source of warmth to others who are cold and lost. And as that light grows in you, you will come to realize that you are no longer only one who is searching for the way. You are becoming a light by which others find the way home. Remember the man who sat by the road outside Jericho, blind and begging, and heard that I was passing by. The crowd told him to be quiet, to stop making a scene, to accept his place and stay silent, but he refused to be silenced. He cried out all the louder, "Have mercy on me." Mark 10:47, and I stopped. In the middle of a crowd, pressing in on every side, I stopped for the one voice everyone else was trying to hush. I asked him what he wanted me to do for him, and his sight was restored, and he followed me down the road. So understand, my child, that your voice is never lost in the crowd to me. When the world tells you to be quiet, to stop hoping, to accept less than what I have for you, you may cry out all the louder. I always stop for the one who calls on me in faith. My beloved child, the road before you is not a test I have designed to see whether you are strong enough to pass it. I drew that road because I know there is a treasure hidden within you that is waiting to be awakened, a beauty that can only be revealed as you pass through the seasons where the light is no longer gentle and easy. There are callings that simply do not sound in seasons of ease. There are gifts that cannot be received while everything is abundant and comfortable, but are given only when you have nothing left to hold on to but faith. Now faith is the assurance of things hoped for, the conviction of things not seen. Hebrews 11:1. I know this is not easy. I have never pretended that it would be. But I also know that you are able to continue, because I see what no one else can see. I see your faithfulness on the days you keep going despite the uncertainty pressing in. I see how you keep choosing to love even while you yourself are still hurting. I see the quiet sacrifices no one applauds, the times you rise again with no one watching and no one to tell you it mattered. And it is precisely in that hidden place that heaven opens to bless you, not on the brightly lit stage, not in the applause of a crowd, but in the quiet room where you kneel alone and say, "Lord, I still believe." Your Father, who sees what is done in secret, will reward you. Matthew 6:6. Never think that I am absent simply because you cannot feel me near. My presence has never depended on your emotions, which rise and fall with the weather of your circumstances. Even when you do not sense me at all, I am there, never stepping away, never distracted, never too busy with a larger world to attend to you. I will never leave you nor forsake you. Hebrews 13:5. The strength you have carried through all of this is not something you produced on your own. Though you may have believed it was, it is the life I placed within you. When you are weak, I am your strength. When you are lost, I am your way. When you doubt your own worth, I still call you by the name that never changes, the one I love. Do not be afraid, my child, when you feel empty. Emptiness is not always loss, though it almost always feels like loss while you are inside it. Often it is space being prepared, cleared, and made ready for me to fill with something better than what was there before. The quiet places are not the sign of abandonment you have feared. They are softened ground where the seed of grace can finally take root and grow. Be still and know that I am God. Psalm 46:10. The days when you are certain nothing at all is happening are so often the days I am working most deeply in the place beneath the surface where the real work is always done. And when you finally look back from further down the road, you will see that no part of the journey was wasted. Every steep climb, every winding and confusing turn, every single moment you were sure you would collapse and could not go on. All of it led you to an appointed meeting place I set for you long before you were born, the place where you become most fully and truly yourself in me. But this journey was never meant to end with you alone, content and safe and keeping the light to yourself. The light you received was never given to be hoarded. It was given to be carried, to those who are weary, to those who are lost, to those who are weeping quietly in places where no one notices their tears. You are the light of the world. Matthew 5:14. Not because you are perfect, but because I shine through you, even through the cracks, especially through the cracks. You do not need to speak as one who has all the answers neatly arranged. You only need to tell, honestly and simply, what I have done in your life. Speak of the dry seasons you walked through, and how I sustained you when you did not think you would make it. Speak of the dark nights when I touched your heart and you knew, somehow, that you were not alone. The simple truth that you were once broken and are now being healed will become the most powerful invitation anyone could offer. They overcame by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony. Revelation 12:11. Imagine it for a moment. Someone trembling with fear looks into your eyes and finds there a peace they cannot explain. Someone who has lost all hope hears your voice and senses a steadiness that is stronger than their circumstances. A weary soul crosses your path and meets in you a quiet joy, gentle and unforced and undeniable, and they cannot stop wondering where it comes from. They may not understand it at first, they may not have words for it, but they will feel it. For what I placed within you was never meant to stay contained. Let your light shine before others. Matthew 5:16. You do not need to announce loudly that you belong to me. When you live in the light, your very life becomes a letter, written not with ink but with your choices and your responses in the ordinary moments that no one is watching. You are a letter from Christ, written not with ink but with the Spirit. 2 Coríntios 3:3. And here is the wonder of it that you have not yet fully grasped. The very places where you were once weakest become the places where my strength is most clearly seen. When others watch you walk through hardship and somehow not be crushed by it, when they see you grow steadier instead of bitter, they begin to wonder. Not because you tried to impress them, but because they recognize, even without words, that something in you does not come from you. My power is made perfect in weakness. 2 Corinthians 12:9. That quiet difference becomes the first door that opens in their hearts. They may never ask the question out loud, but it forms in them anyway. What keeps you standing? What lifts you up again and again? How do you carry such peace in the middle of the storm? You do not need to argue anyone into hope. You only need to live truthfully in what I have done. You will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. John 8:32. And when you are free, your freedom itself becomes an invitation to others who are still bound. Remember the woman at the well, a woman with a past that made her hide from her own neighbors, coming to draw water alone in the heat of the day to avoid their eyes. She carried no perfect message when she ran back to her town. She carried only an honest one. Come, see a man who told me everything I ever did. John 4:29. It was her honesty, not her holiness, that drew an entire town out to meet me. Your honesty about what I have done in you will do the same. So do not be anxious about what you must say or do to change the people around you. Leave that work to me. You simply live in the truth you have received and walk in the light I have placed within you. A peaceful gaze from you, at the right moment, may become the answer to someone's anxiety. A gentle word may become a resting place for a soul that is breaking under a weight no one else can see. A steady life lived in front of others may become a sign to someone that hope is real after all. Out of your heart will flow rivers of living water. John 7:38. That water is not loud, it does not announce itself, but it is enough to refresh the weary who come near it. And one by one, they will be drawn to you, not because you are flawless, but because they recognize something real in you, and that reality is me. My beloved child, do not let the haste and noise of the world sweep you away from this. True transformation begins quietly, like the first gentle breeze of morning that only those who have slowed down enough are able to feel. The wind blows wherever it pleases. You hear its sound, but you cannot tell where it comes from or where it is going. John 3:8. You may not see each movement of my hand clearly, but that does not mean I am not at work in you. In every glance you offer, every harsh word you choose not to speak, every response you decide to give in love rather than in anger, I am shaping you, little by little, day by day. And there will come a moment, appointed by me, when what has been hidden begins to show. Someone will draw near to you, someone will ask, a soul will open in front of you, and you will realize that the light I placed within you was never only for you, it was always meant to overflow. Remember the prophet Elijah, who ran into the wilderness so exhausted and so afraid that he asked me to let him die, certain he had failed and that everything was lost. I did not rebuke him for his despair. I did not lecture him about his weakness. I let him sleep, and then I sent an angel to feed him, and let him sleep again, and fed him once more. Get up and eat, for the journey is too much for you. 1 Kings 19:7. Only after he was rested and fed did I speak to him, and even then, not in the wind or the earthquake or the fire, but in the gentle whisper that came afterward. So understand, my child, that when you are at the end of yourself, I do not begin with demands. I begin with care. I tend to your body and your weariness before I ask anything of your spirit, because I know the journey ahead, and I know exactly what you can bear and what you cannot. You are not a nameless copy among countless patterns, one face lost in a sea of billions. You are a singular window through which the light of heaven can shine into the world in a way that no one else who has ever lived can replace. You may think you are not bright enough, not strong enough, not clear enough to matter, but I do not need you to shine according to the standards of the world. I need you to be honest, a heart that does not hide and does not pretend and does not distort the truth, simply reflecting me as a still pool reflects the sky. And that is already happening in you, more than you know. Each day you walk in grace. Each time you choose to forgive instead of holding on to the hurt that would be so easy to keep. Each moment you choose love over judgment. You are opening a path, not through grand and impressive declarations, but through your very life. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God. Matthew 5:9. Right now, where you stand, a choice is quietly opening before you. One path is familiar and easy, asking very little of you, requiring only that you blend into the current and live just enough to get by without ever being truly stretched. The other is narrower and far less traveled, and it asks more of you, but it leads to a freedom you have not yet fully tasted. Enter through the narrow gate, for wide is the gate that leads to destruction, but small is the gate that leads to life. Matthew 7:13-14. That road is not the easy one, but it is the true one. I will not force you onto it. I never force. I invite. Choose the light, my child, not only for your own sake, but for the sake of those who are still feeling their way through the dark, not yet knowing the way out. You do not see the full reach of your own influence. Yet every step you take in courage today may become the answer to someone else's desperate prayer tomorrow. Have you begun to notice that the things you chase so tirelessly for so long, the recognition, the fleeting security, the temporary reassurances, left you in the end with a quiet exhaustion you did not expect? I do not condemn you for having chased them. I know how real their pull can feel, how loudly they promise to satisfy. But that very weariness is awakening a different longing in you now, a hunger for a rhythm of life that is no longer driven by pressure but sustained by trust. Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Matthew 11:28. That rest is not an escape from your life. It is an entrance into a new way of living it, the rhythm of walking with me. Learn this rhythm, my child. It is not loud or hurried. It begins in the inward listening, where I speak to you with a gentleness you can only recognize when you are willing to slow down and pause. Be still, and know that I am God. Psalm 46:10. This is how you were always meant to walk, not out of fear of falling behind, but out of hope. Not because you are pressured from every side, but because you are led by a hand you can trust. At first, this rhythm may feel deeply unfamiliar. even uncomfortable. It asks you to release the demand to see results immediately, the constant urge to grasp and secure and control. But faith does not grow in haste. It is nurtured in stillness, in the days that seem as though nothing is happening at all. The righteous will live by faith. Romans 1:17. Not by speed, by depth. I am never in a hurry, because I know that what is rooted deeply will stand firm when the strong winds finally come. When you choose to follow me, you do not lose yourself, as you may have feared. You slowly rediscover the true self you set aside long ago beneath the crushing weight of expectations and anxieties. The layers you put on to be accepted are being gently removed, one by one. In my presence, you do not need to strain and perform to be worthy. You only need to come, to be present, to be honest. The rest I will carry for you. Let me lead you step by step, and do not be troubled that you cannot see the whole road stretching out ahead. The Lord will guide you continually and satisfy your soul. Isaiah 58:11. My invitation is not a command imposed upon you from above. It is a door that stays open. You may return to it at any time, and each time you do, you will find me there, exactly the same, unchanged by your absence. I have loved you with an everlasting love, therefore I have drawn you with loving kindness. Jeremiah 31:3. Nothing you have done can make me stop loving you. No road you have wandered down can make me stop waiting for you to come home. Remember the son who took his inheritance and wasted it all in a far country, who ended up feeding pigs and longing to eat what they ate, who finally came to his senses and rehearsed an apology, planning to ask only to be treated as a servant. But while he was still a long way off, his father saw him and was filled with compassion and ran to him and threw his arms around him before a single word of apology could be spoken. This son of mine was dead and is alive again. Luke 15:24. The father did not interrogate him about where the money had gone. He did not demand that the son prove his repentance was sincere. He ran, he embraced, he restored. And that, my child, is exactly how I receive you every single time you turn back toward home, no matter how far you have wandered, no matter how much you have wasted, no matter how long you have been gone. My beloved child, when you choose to hold questions that have no immediate answers, you are not weak, as you once feared you were. You are opening your heart to a deep and precious gift, the gift of discernment. It does not come from a sharp intellect or from worldly experience. It is formed in stillness, refined through the very days when you do not understand and yet choose to remain anyway. Let the wise listen and add to their learning. Proverbs 1:5. I do not give discernment the way I might hand you a map with every turn clearly marked from beginning to end. I give it the way the dawn gives light, gentle and gradual, enough to keep you from stumbling on the next step, but not so much that you stop depending on me entirely. Your word is a lamp to my feet and a light to my path. Psalm 119:105. That lamp does not illuminate the far horizon all at once. It illuminates the ground directly beneath your feet, which is exactly where you need to see. There are moments you ask me, what should I do? And I do not answer right away. Not because I have left you to figure it out alone, but because I want you to pause and listen more deeply, not only to me, but to what is truly moving inside you. Is it faith that drives you, or a restless desire to escape the discomfort of waiting? True discernment does not rise out of fleeting emotion or impatience. It comes from a heart that has been trained in prayer over time. Test everything. Hold fast to what is good. 1 Thessalonians 5:21. It is a process, not a reflex. And when clarity finally comes, it will not usually arrive as a loud and forceful argument that overwhelms you. It will arrive as a gentle conviction that carries peace within it, and the peace of God will guard your hearts and your minds. Philippians 4:7. When you keep walking and still carry that peace, you can know that you are on the right path, even when you cannot yet see the whole of where it leads. When you are misunderstood, when voices rise against the very thing I have asked you to do in obedience, do not rush to defend yourself or explain yourself to everyone who doubts. See it instead as a place where I am refining something deeper in you. In the friction of being misunderstood, the true motive of your heart is revealed, even to yourself. Are you walking to please me, or to win the approval of others? Man looks at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart. 1 Samuel 16:7. I see clearly, and I overlook nothing. If there is something in you that needs correction, I will not shame you for it. I will gently shape it, the way a loving parent guides, rather than condemns. So do not fear being misunderstood. Be still before me. Discernment does not make you cold or superior to those around you. It makes you more compassionate, because you begin to see clearly what must be released, what must be forgiven, and when it is wisest to simply remain silent and let love do its quiet work. My beloved child, there are times I do not lead you around the valley, but straight through the heart of it, not to exhaust you for no reason, not to abandon you to suffering, but to form a depth in you that no shortcut could ever give. When you pass through such places, do not be afraid. My promise to you was never the absence of darkness. My promise was my presence within it. You often wish that I would simply reach down and remove the things that hurt and confuse you, and I understand that wish completely. But I love you too much to merely make you comfortable at the cost of leaving you shallow. If I always led you around the hard path, your faith would never sink its roots down deep enough to hold you when the real storms came. If I always removed the trial the moment it began, you would never come to know how firmly you are held by hands stronger than your own. Suffering produces perseverance. Perseverance, character, and character, hope. Romans 5, 3-4. I do not let you endure anything in vain. I am building something in you from the inside, something that comfort alone could never construct. Do not mistake difficulty for rejection, my child. Not every hardship is a punishment. So often it is an invitation, a calling into a deeper dependence, a trust that no longer leans on your own limited understanding. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. Proverbs 3, 5. When you finally stop clinging so tightly to your own certainty, you begin to cling instead to me, and it is there, in that letting go, that faith becomes truly alive. And it is in the quiet of the valley that my voice is clearest of all, no longer drowned out by the noise of easier days, no longer diluted by 100 simpler choices. I whisper into your heart there, not for you to hear with your ears, but for you to recognize through the peace that settles over you. When you keep walking and still carry that peace, you are walking the right way, even before you can see the destination. Remember Paul, who pleaded with me 3 times to remove the thorn that caused him such pain, begging me to take it away, and I did not remove it. Not because I was indifferent to his suffering, not because I did not hear his prayer, but because I knew that my grace was enough for him, more than enough, and that my power would be revealed most clearly in his weakness rather than in his strength. And in the end, he learned to say something only the deepest faith can say: when I am weak, then I am strong. 2 Corinthians 12, 10. Maturity is not found in smooth and easy circumstances. It is found in continuing to love, to trust, to obey, even when your heart feels torn in two. You do not have to hide your wounds from me to prove your strength. I do not wait for you to become perfect before I draw near. I wait for you to come to me as you actually are, tired, honest, with all your defenses lowered. The Lord is close to the brokenhearted. Psalm 34, 18. Grace does not require you to shine at all times. It only asks you to be real. Remember the woman who had bled for 12 long years, who had spent everything she had on physicians and only grown worse, who was considered unclean and untouchable by everyone around her. She pressed through a crowd just to touch the edge of my garment, believing that even that would be enough. And it was. Daughter, your faith has healed you. Go in peace. Mark 5, 34. She did not need a grand ceremony. She needed only to reach out in faith from the depths of her desperation. And on that very same road, a synagogue leader named Jairus was waiting in agony for me to come and heal his dying daughter, and the delay must have felt unbearable to him, and then the news came that she had already died. But I said to him, do not be afraid, just believe. Mark 5, 36. And what looked like a delay that ended in death became instead the setting for a resurrection. So understand, my child, that my apparent delays are not my denials. What looks to you like the end is so often the very place where I am about to begin. Remember Ruth, a widow in a foreign land, who chose to stay with her grieving mother-in-law Naomi when she had every reason to leave and return to her own people. Where you go, I will go, and where you stay, I will stay. Ruth 1:16. She gleaned in the fields among the leftover grain, unnoticed and unimportant by every worldly measure, a foreigner with no claim on anyone's kindness. But I was writing her quiet faithfulness into a story far larger than she could see. From that overlooked woman gleaning in a field would come a line that led to David, and from David, in time, the Savior of the world. You never know, my child. what I am building from the small and faithful choices you make when no one is watching and nothing seems to matter. And remember Hagar, alone in the wilderness, cast out and weeping, certain she and her child would die there forgotten. But I found her there, in the desert, in the place she thought was the end of everything. And she gave me a name that day, calling me the God who sees. You are the God who sees me. Genesis 16:13. For I had seen her in her misery when no one else had. And I see you too, my child, in the wilderness places you think no one knows about, in the deserts where you weep, believing you have been forgotten. You have not been forgotten. You have been seen, all along, by the one who never looks away. My beloved child, you do not need to do great and dazzling things to touch the world around you. I do not measure the worth of your influence by its size or its visibility. I measure it by its depth, a softened gaze offered at exactly the right moment. A word spoken in love when a harsh one would have been easier. An act of kindness extended into the middle of someone's coldness. These open doors you may never even see open. A gentle answer turns away wrath. Proverbs 15:1. You do not need to change the entire crowd. Touch one soul with my love, and I will do the rest from there. People will forget many of the words you say to them, but they will remember for a lifetime how you made them feel, how you treated them when they had nothing to offer you in return. Show me your faith by your works. James 2:18. A life that is truly lived in front of others becomes a sermon that needs no pulpit and no platform. The seeds you sow today will not always sprout before your eyes, and this is one of the hardest things for you to accept. They grow quietly, in hearts I have already been preparing in ways you cannot see. A word of encouragement offered at just the right time may keep someone from despair you never knew they were facing. An act of forgiveness may break down a wall that has stood between two people for years. A posture of kindness towards someone who wounded you deeply may become living proof to a watching soul that grace is something real and not just a word. Do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good. Romans 12:8. These small things are never small in my sight, so do not strain to control the outcome of your kindness. Be faithful in your part, which is simply to live in the light, to live in truth, to live in love, and then leave the rest, the growth and the harvest, entirely to me. Neither the one who plants nor the one who waters is anything, but only God who makes things grow. 1 Corinthians 3:7. You are called to sow the seed. I am the one who brings the increase in my own time. So continue, my child, without noise and without haste. When you carry a pure heart into a room, the very atmosphere of that place begins to change, not because you impose anything on anyone, but because your presence carries a different quality, the quality of a life that is rooted in me. You are the salt of the earth, the light of the world. Matthew 5:13-14. Salt does not announce itself or make a sound, yet it changes everything it touches. Light does not argue or debate, yet it drives back the darkness simply by being present. So never underestimate the power of a genuine smile, a gentle touch, a sincere word offered to someone who expected nothing. I see each one, I use each one, I multiply each one far beyond what you could imagine. And the day will come when you look back over your life and realize, with wonder, that the very things you thought were too small to matter became the path through which many people found their way home. Remember Gideon, the least in his family, from the weakest clan, hiding in a winepress in fear when I called him a mighty warrior, long before he had done anything mighty at all. The Lord is with you, mighty warrior. Judges 6:12. He argued with me, he doubted, he asked for sign after sign because he could not believe I would use someone like him. And yet I did use him, not because of his strength, but because he was willing, in the end, to obey despite his fear. I even reduced his army from thousands to a mere 300, so that when the victory came, everyone would know it was my hand and not their numbers. So do not disqualify yourself, my child, because you feel small or afraid or unqualified. I have always done my greatest work through those the world overlooked, so that the glory would clearly belong to me. Remember Moses, who stood before a sea with an army closing in behind and no way forward, and the people cried out in terror that they had been brought into the wilderness to die. But I said, stand firm, and you will see the deliverance the Lord will bring you today. Exodus 14:13. And the sea that stood as an impossible barrier became the very road to freedom. The thing that looked like the end of the path became the means of the escape. So when you find yourself pressed between an impossible obstacle ahead and a pursuing fear behind, Do not assume you have reached the end. I have made roads through seas before. I am not limited by what blocks your way. Remember Daniel, thrown into a den of lions for refusing to stop praying to me, lowered into the dark to face what should have been certain death. But I shut the mouths of the lions, and in the morning he walked out unharmed, and even the king who had condemned him was moved to declare my faithfulness. My God sent his angel, and he shut the mouths of the lions. Daniel 6:22. The den that was meant to destroy him became the stage on which my power was displayed. So when you are thrown into the dark places by the cruelty or the misunderstanding of others, do not despair. I am there in the den with you, and what was meant to end you, I can turn into a testimony. Remember the boy David, too small for the armor they tried to put on him, facing a giant that had paralyzed an entire army with fear. He came not with a sword and a shield, but with a sling and 5 smooth stones and an unshakable confidence in me. The battle is the Lord's. 1 Samuel 17:47. And the giant that seemed unbeatable fell to the one everyone had overlooked. So when you face a giant in your own life, a fear or an obstacle that seems far too large for you, remember that the battle was never yours to win on your own strength. It is mine, and I have never lost. My beloved child, now I ask you to be still. Let your heart settle like the surface of a lake after the wind has finally passed and gone. Let the rushing torrent of your thoughts grow quiet. I am not asking you to understand everything in this moment, nor to accomplish something great, nor to fix what is broken. I am asking you, simply, to be here, now, with me, and to let me hold your soul the way you have not let anyone hold it in a very long time. Be still, and know that I am God. Psalm 46:10. Each breath you take in my presence is more precious than 100 hurried words spoken in anxiety. The peace you have been searching for does not come from finally resolving everything. It comes from letting me hold everything while you rest. Release what has been weighing on you for so long, the old stories you keep replaying, the lingering memories that still sting when they surface, the accusations you have aimed at yourself over and over for far longer than anyone deserves. You have carried them long enough, my child, not because they were never real, but because you were never meant to carry them alone in the first place. Cast all your anxiety on him, because he cares for you. Et Peter Fem, Shu. Let them drift away from you like mist burning off in the warmth of the morning light. I am not here to condemn you for any of it. I am here to heal you. I do not come to you with a heavy hand raised to strike. I come with a gentle heart, and every movement of my love is reaching for the very places where you hurt the most. I have seen everything, my child. Not only what you show to others in the daylight, but everything you keep hidden within. I see the smiles you use to cover the aches so no one will worry. I see the silences you choose in order to protect the peace of everyone around you, even when it costs you. I see the nights you lie awake, staring into the dark, carrying what you cannot say to anyone. And I tell you, with all the tenderness I have, you do not need to pretend to be strong in front of me. You do not need to be afraid to admit that you are tired. Weariness is not weakness. It is the evidence that you have loved, that you have given of yourself, that you have tried with your whole heart, and I honor that in you. Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Matthew 11:28. You have lived too long among the noise of anxiety, the endless what-ifs, the if-onlys that circle your mind, the whispers of the past that keep trying to define who you are now. But today you can choose a different voice to listen to, not the loudest one, not the most overwhelming one, just a quiet word, soft as morning dew, yet deep enough to silence all the others if you will let it. I do not need thunder to call you. I do not need to overwhelm you to reach you. I come with a voice as gentle as breath, and yet it carries within it an unshakable power, and I am speaking to you even now in these very words. You are mine, not when you finally do everything right, not when you at last feel worthy of it. Right now, exactly as you are. I have called you by name. You are mine. Isaiah 43:1. This truth does not move with your changing emotions. It does not waver on your weakest days. It is not erased by your past, however heavy it feels. You belong to me, and that is the solid ground you can stand on even when everything else in your life is trembling. So rest, my child, not to give up, but to be restored. Let me lift the weight you have carried for far too long, the weight you were never designed to bear by yourself. Let the noise settle into silence, and let my voice grow clearer within you the longer you stay. I am here, unchanging, never growing tired of loving you, never running out of patience, never reaching the end of my mercy toward you. You do not need to strive any longer to be accepted by me. You are already held. You always were. And within that holding you will find your strength again, your peace again, and your true self, not the version you keep thinking you must somehow become, but the one I have always seen and always loved from the very beginning, before you did anything to earn it or anything to lose it. Remember Zacchaeus, a man despised by his whole town, a tax collector who had cheated and taken from his neighbors, so small in stature that he had to climb a tree just to see me pass by, certain I would never notice someone like him. But I stopped beneath that tree, and I looked up, and I called him by name, and I told him I was coming to his house that very day. Today salvation has come to this house. Luke 19:9. I did not wait for him to clean up his life first. I came to him in the middle of it, and the coming itself was what changed him. So do not believe the lie that you must first become acceptable before I will come near. I come near, and the nearness is what makes you new. There were times the storm raged, and it seemed to my own disciples that I did not care, that I was asleep while they were perishing, and they woke me in their panic. I stood and spoke to the wind and the waves, "Peace, be still." Mark 4:39. And there was a great calm. But understand that the deeper miracle was not only the stilling of the sea, it was the presence of the Father in the boat the whole time, more real than the storm that frightened them. So when your own storms rage and it feels as though I am asleep and distant and unconcerned, know that I am in the boat with you. I have not abandoned you to the waves. And whether I still the storm around you or simply still the storm within you, I am with you, and that has always been enough. My beloved child, some of the greatest impact your life will ever have will not come from what you achieved, from the things you can list or display. It will come from the simple fact that you remained standing when it felt impossible to continue, that you did not give up when giving up would have been so much easier. I have watched you refuse to quit on the days everything seemed to break apart in your hands. You may not see the results of that endurance yet, but I see the hidden movement beneath the surface, the roots going deeper even as the branches seem bare. We fix our eyes not on what is seen, but on what is unseen. 2 Corinthians 4:18. A seed must be buried in the dark before it can ever sprout into the light, and faith must pass through its own darkness before it becomes truly steadfast. What you are enduring right now is not your punishment. It is your preparation. I am forming in you a resilience that nothing in the days to come will be able to shake loose. Each morning that I give you is not merely another turn of the clock, another day to be survived and crossed off. It is a living reminder that I have never once stopped working in your life. The dawn does not only push back the darkness of the night, it awakens the promises that have been resting quietly in your heart, waiting for their day. His mercies are new every morning. Lamentations 3:23. What you need for today is not found in yesterday's supply of strength, which is why you cannot store it up, and why you must come to me again each morning. I provide exactly enough for today, exactly when you need it, and not a moment before. I already know everything you will face before this day is over, and I promise you this. I will never send you into a new day without first equipping you to meet it. When your mind is stretched tight between fear and hope, pulled in both directions at once, choose the one that brings life. Fear will always speak to you of the worst that could happen, painting every shadow as a threat. But the hope that comes from me reminds you of what I have promised, which is more certain than anything fear can invent. The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? Psalm 27:1. You are not asked to deny the reality of what you face, to pretend the difficulty is not real. You are asked to see it through my eyes, in its true proportion against my faithfulness. What you see may genuinely trouble you, but what I have spoken will never fail. Not once, not ever. I do not promise you a life without any hardship. I promise you something far better and far more reliable. You will never face any of it alone. When you fall, I do not watch from a cold distance, waiting to see if you can get up. I bend down to you where you have fallen. When you lose your way entirely, I do not simply wait at the destination for you to somehow find it. I come searching for you. The shepherd leaves the 99 and goes after the one that is lost until he finds it. Luke 15:4. When you have no words left even to pray, my own spirit prays within you with groanings too deep for words. When you are completely silent, I am still speaking over you. Before they call, I will answer. Isaiah 65:24. Remember the shepherd who counted his flock and found one missing, just one out of 100. He did not shrug and decide that 99 was enough, that the loss of one could be accepted. He left the 99 in the open country and went searching through the night for the single lost one, and when he found it, he did not scold it or drive it home. He lifted it onto his own shoulders and carried it, rejoicing all the way. Rejoice with me, I have found my lost sheep. Luke 15:6. This is who I am, my child. This is how I love. If you are the one who has wandered, know that I am already searching for you, and that when I find you, I will not shame you. I will carry you home on my own shoulders, and there will be rejoicing in heaven over your return. My beloved child, I am teaching you to be faithful in the small and hidden things, because that is where character is truly built, far from any applause. The world is forever asking what you have accomplished, what you can show, what you can prove. But I am looking at your quiet decisions when no one at all is watching. Whoever is faithful in very little is also faithful in much. Luke 16:10. Those small steps you take in obedience, the ones that feel insignificant and unnoticed, are becoming the stones I am using to build something far greater than you can yet imagine. I am not in a hurry, and you do not need to rush ahead of me. Live each day with a pure heart, a steady mind, and your eyes fixed on me, and you will watch how each small decision becomes a stream that flows, in time, into a river of influence at the moment I have appointed for it. Think of the servants entrusted with their master's resources while he went away. To the ones who were faithful with what they had been given, however small, the master returned and said the words every faithful heart longs to hear. Well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful over a few things. I will set you over many. Matthew 25:21. It was never about the size of what they were given. It was about their faithfulness with it. So do not despise the few things in your care right now, the small and ordinary responsibilities, the unglamorous work, the people only you can love. Be faithful there, and trust that faithfulness in little is the very thing I am looking for before I entrust you with much. Even my own son, when he walked the earth, lived most of his years in obscurity, working quietly in a carpenter's shop, in a town that people dismissed, doing small and ordinary things day after day. He did not perform a miracle every hour to prove who he was. For 30 years, he simply lived faithfully in my will, unknown and unremarkable to the world around him. I always do what pleases him. John 8:29. And that quiet, hidden faithfulness was not wasted time before the real work began. It was the foundation of everything that followed. So when your own life feels hidden and ordinary, when you wonder whether the quiet years count for anything, remember that I do my deepest work in exactly such seasons, preparing what the world will only see much later. My beloved child, do not be afraid of the days that feel repetitive, the ones that seem to blur together with nothing remarkable to mark them. It is within those very days that your soul is being quietly refined, like silver in the slow heat of the fire. A mature life does not require a high platform or a watching audience. It walks faithfully through each ordinary day, choosing what is right again and again, until what is right becomes the natural rhythm of the heart. Every choice you make in love is like a single stone laid down, and little by little, stone by stone, a path appears beneath your feet, not the easy path you might have chosen, but the one that leads to steadiness, to peace, and to a faith that has been tested and found to hold. Put on the full armor of God. Ephesians 6:11. Not for display, not to impress anyone, but so that you can stand firm when the day of difficulty comes, as it surely will to everyone. When you choose what is right today, and then again tomorrow, and then again the day after that, you are weaving for yourself an armor that cannot be torn away from you by any circumstance, the armor of a true and tested faith. I remember the times you struggled within yourself, when you could have justified doing the easier thing, the lesser thing, and you chose instead to do what was right even though it cost you and no one would ever know. I saw every one of those moments. I do not forget the hidden victories. And no one who is faithful in little is ever left without my greater trust in due time. I am preparing you, little by little, not for a momentary perfection, but for a lasting steadfastness that the storms cannot move. So when the winds finally come, and they will come, you will not be swept away, because your roots will have gone down deep into me. When the opportunities come, and they will come, you will not become proud and forget who gave them to you. When the darkness surrounds you again, as it sometimes will in this life, You will still recognize the light I planted within you long ago, and it will guide you through. Continue to walk in this way, my child, slowly yet surely, never despising the small and quiet steps. I am with you in every one of them, and from these small things I am building something far greater than your eyes can yet see. Remember Jonah, who ran from the very thing I had called him to do, who boarded a ship in the opposite direction and ended up in the dark belly of the sea, in a place so low and so hopeless he believed it was his grave. And even there, in the depths, when he finally turned his heart back toward me, I heard him. In my distress I called to the Lord, and he answered me. Jonah 2:2. I did not abandon him to the consequences of his running. I gave him a second chance, and then I used him anyway, despite his flight, despite his reluctance, despite everything. So if you have run from me, my child, if you find yourself in the dark belly of your own choices, believing it is too late and you have gone too far, hear this: it is not too late. I am the God of the second chance, and the third, and as many as it takes to bring you home. Remember Martha, anxious and distracted, busy with many things, frustrated that her sister Mary simply sat at my feet and listened while she did all the work. I did not scold her for her service, but I gently showed her that one thing alone was needed. Mary has chosen what is better, and it will not be taken away from her. Luke 10:42. My child, you too have been anxious and distracted by many things, pulled in 100 directions by tasks that feel urgent. But the one thing needed is to sit at my feet and receive from me. The work will still be there. But this moment of presence with me is the better part, and no one can take it from you. Remember the centurion, a Roman soldier, a man of authority and power, who came to me on behalf of his suffering servant and said he was not worthy to have me enter his home, but that I needed only to speak the word and his servant would be healed. I marveled at his faith. I have not found anyone in Israel with such great faith. Matthew 8:10. He understood that my word alone was enough, that I did not need to be physically present for my power to reach across the distance. So when you feel that I am far from you, that the distance between us is too great, remember that my word reaches across any distance. I need only speak, and what I speak is done. Remember the persistent widow, who came again and again before an unjust judge, refusing to give up, refusing to be turned away, until at last she received the justice she sought. I told that story so that you would understand something about prayer, that you should always pray and not give up. Will not God bring about justice for his chosen ones, who cry out to him day and night? Luke 8:7. So do not grow weary in your asking, my child. Do not let the silence convince you to stop. Keep coming, keep asking, keep knocking. Your persistence is not annoying to me. It is precious. It is faith refusing to let go, and I honor it. My beloved child, there is a grief you have carried that you have never fully allowed yourself to feel, a loss you packed away because there was no time to grieve it, no space to fall apart, too many people depending on you to hold it together. I have seen that grief sitting untended in the corner of your heart, and I want you to know that I am near to you in it. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Matthew 5:4. You do not have to be strong about it anymore, not with me. You can lay it down. You can let yourself feel what you have been holding back for so long, and in that honest grief, you will find that I am closer than I have ever been, holding what you cannot hold, mourning with you, and slowly, gently, beginning to comfort what only I can reach. And there is a fear about the future that follows you, a quiet dread about what is coming, about how it will all turn out, about whether you will have enough, whether you will be okay, whether the people you love will be safe. I know that fear well, because I see it tighten in you when the night is quiet. But I hold your future, every part of it, every day you have not yet lived. Do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Matthew 6:34. I am already in your tomorrow, preparing it, going ahead of you to make the way. You do not have to carry the weight of a future that has not yet arrived. You only have to trust the one who already stands within it, waiting for you, having gone before you, holding it all in hands that have never failed. And now, my beloved, as these words draw toward their close, I want you to carry one truth above all the others back into your day, back into your night, back into whatever you must face when this quiet moment ends. You are not alone, and you never were. I do not stand at the far end of your road, waiting impatiently for you to finally arrive under your own strength. I walk every single step of it with you, matching my pace to yours. holding you when you stumble, carrying you when you can no longer walk, becoming your very light when the darkness is too thick for you to see your own hand. I will never leave you nor forsake you. Hebrews 13:5. My presence does not always remove the storm from around you, but it keeps you whole within it, and in the end, that is the deeper miracle. So lift your eyes this day with a renewed and quiet trust. Not because everything has suddenly become clear, not because all your questions have been answered, but because I am still here, and I have always been here, and I am not going anywhere. As long as I am here, you still have hope. As long as I am leading, you still have a way forward. And as long as you belong to me, which you do and always will, nothing you walk through is ever, ever without purpose. Every tear is counted. Every step is seen. Every small act of faithfulness is treasured, and the day is coming sooner than you think, when you will look back over all of it and understand at last that the days you thought were your weakest were the very days I was doing my strongest and most beautiful work within you. Walk in peace, my beloved child. Let your heart rest in my presence, not striving, not proving, not performing, simply resting in the love that has held you since before you were born and will hold you long after this life has passed. And know this, truly, you did not come to these words by accident today. You were called here gently by a Father who has never stopped watching over you, who knows your name, who has counted the very hairs on your head, and who loves you with a love that has no end and no condition and no limit. Receive it now. Let it settle deep into the places that have been waiting so long to be touched, and carry it with you into everything that comes next. Thank you for spending this time resting in the presence of these words. Know this before you go. You are not simply an audience listening to a message. You are chosen, invited to live in my presence each and every day, to walk with me through both the light and the shadow, never alone again. If these words have touched your heart today, take a moment to subscribe to this channel and turn on the notification bell so that you never miss a single message of encouragement prepared with you in mind. And share this with someone you love who needs to be reminded today that they are seen, that they are deeply loved, and that they are never, ever walking alone. Until the next message, walk in peace, rest in trust, and let His light lead you safely home. Amen.